All right. It's Jerry Mason, Kickin Lawyer. We are here on another Law Talk. I appreciate you guys joining us today. As always, please like, follow, and subscribe to the content. We're on all social media platforms and all podcast platforms. If you want to check out Instagram, wherever, just look up Kickin Lawyer. We appreciate that. It helps us out. And then if you haven't, please make sure you check out Michelle Allen. She's the go-to in the area if you're going to buy, sell, rent, lease real estate. She's been a longtime sponsor of this little show, and she's a good community leader too. We like Michelle. So local Cry-Like realtor. And then if you want to learn to kick and punch, some discipline, self-control, you can visit masonsmartialarts.com. That's my first business, been open since 1993, still open in Covington, Tennessee. And then I have a bookstore here on the square in Covington, Jam Books and Records. We sell new books, records, signed memorabilia, and now we have a new comics corner. If you like comic books, you can check us out, open 6 days a week. Then my wife, Madeline, and Dr. Laura Huffman have holistichealthhormones.com. They have a little clinic where they focus on women's hormone therapy. You can visit them and check them out. And then if you want help with social media marketing, branding, videography, etc., you can visit masonitemarketing.com. And I'm excited to have my guest today. So you might have seen a recent podcast we had where we interviewed a local political candidate. And I had reached out to both, and I really want to do debates. I grew up in the 80s and early 90s. I liked debates. The local politicians are real nice, and they don't want to talk smack to each other probably, so it may not work as well. So we gave them the option to do that or do individual podcasts. And so joining me today is State Representative of Tennessee, I think it's District 81.
Correct.
Candidate, Mr. Jason Fleming.
Yeah.
Jason, how are you?
Hey, doing well. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming. And I mentioned this to you when you walked in. So my sons are fans of yours, both Alex and Austin.
Thank you.
Alex is in the Navy, and he and Colin, who's also in the Navy, Colin Haynes, best buddies, and said that you've helped him along the way because I know they've seen you at church and stuff. So, but anyway, thank you for that.
Yeah.
And then, so I was going to start kind of like I had let your opponent. Why don't you just introduce yourself, what you're running for, why people should vote for you?
Sure, absolutely. So, as you said, my name is Jason Fleming. I am running in the Republican primary for State Representative District 81, which is all of Tipton County and really the majority of the unincorporated parts of Haywood County. Mm-hmm. I am a lifelong resident of Tipton County. I'm the fourth generation owner of the farm that we call home. Sheila and I built there in 1991. Been there ever since. Our home is a quarter of a mile up the road from the house that I grew up in. So always been here.
Yes, sir.
A native Tipton Countyan. So when people ask about who I am, okay, I usually start this way. Okay, I've done a lot of things, but who I am, I'm a Christian, I'm a son, I'm a husband, I'm a brother, and I'm a father. Okay, now what have I done? I retired after 40 years with the U.S. Department of Agriculture. You know, I say 40 years because that sounds good. It was actually 39 years and 6 months, but 40 years sounds better.
Yeah.
Concurrent with that, I spent 32 years in uniform with the Army National Guard. So incredibly blessed to retire from two great careers. I currently serve as the Chief of Staff for Mayor Jan Hensley of the City of Covington. And so if you look at that, all I've ever done is public service. Never worked in the private sector. It's always been public service and serving others. You mentioned church, served in a lot of different roles, capacities there as well. So service is all I've ever done. And so when I think about, when people ask why you, why now, why should we vote for you? So the why now is because when people started reaching out and asking me to run for office, I didn't have a legitimate reason to say no, because I'm just at a point in my life where I'm able to do that. And so I've spent the last 40 years getting ready. I feel like all of my career in some way or another has been preparing me for this role, or whatever the next role is for me, whatever that next service opportunity is, because that's what I'm all about, is serving. And part of it is, Jerry, I feel like I've got a debt still that I owe on. And that's because for 40 years, people have poured into me. They've invested in me. You as a taxpayer, my 32 years in service, I went through every level of military education that there is, all the way up to U.S. Army War College. And so that's a tremendous investment in an individual to go to that. And so I'm still paying that. I still want to give back because I've got so much to give. I try to do that in a lot of different ways. You talked about mentoring young folks. I try to do that and be a positive influence in their life. But there are so many other ways to give back. And part of that is continuing to serve. And if that's your state representative, then, I'll be incredibly blessed to do that. But there'll be something else. I'll be serving somehow, somewhere for years to come, God willing.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I have a question, but as we were talking, these mics are sensitive, and you may hear snoring, and that's Perry Mason, my dog, is under the table snoring.
Push the mic next to you, Jerry, away,
this one,
the center of the table, away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that better?
We've got 2 dogs, and they are.
You're talking, and that's great, actually. Yeah. And then all I could hear is Perry snoring. So one thing you mentioned, because look, I like Jan. Me and Jan have been friends.
Yeah.
I voted for him. If he runs again, I'm going to vote for him again.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's running or not. He and I got to talk about it. I know he's got some competition. And it's kind of like with yours. I think a lot of the folks in several of these local elections are great people.
Yes.
I don't know that it's not that it's a negative on anyone. But anyway, one question I had, I was just curious. In the role that you've served with him in the city, have you seen interaction with the state rep? Like, did you have interaction with Deborah Moody to see how her decisions would affect locally?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The mayor has been, I hear him still.
Yeah, you hear him still. Now I brought it up, you hear it.
that pause, yeah.
Yeah.
So he has been incredibly gracious to me, and I think it's been mutually beneficial. I have been at the table with practically every meeting he's been involved in, whether it's at City Hall, whether it's in Mayor Huffman's office, whether it's in Nashville. So I've had a front row seat for the last 4 years, not at the local level, not on the legislative side, but on the operational side, the day-to-day, to see how municipal government, county government interacts with folks at state, whether it's state agencies or the state legislature. So I've seen it up close and personal. I've had the opportunity to visit several times with Senator Rose, Rep. Moody. I was incredibly fortunate to take the lead on an initiative that just passed through the state legislature. That was to a private act for the county to be able to establish an environmental court. I was fortunate to be the lead on that, worked with a lot of good people, but we were able to get that private act passed by the county commission on a unanimous vote, and then get it carried in the last session and passed, and the governor signed it into law. So I've been incredibly fortunate to be in the room with a lot of times with those folks, and then also at the local level.
Okay. So, and then one thing, this is more for me, and I've told you in the beginning that I am an undecided voter on all of this, and I'm open to options here. So some of the questions I ask are specific to me. And so I'm a registered Republican.
Yes.
I am a conservative, but I think especially being a criminal defense lawyer, in some issues, I'm probably a little more socially liberal than folks. So I say that because the question I ask, as soon as I say things about criminal defense where I've defended people, and in my perspective, the problem is government in general is made up of humans.
That's right.
We're all sinners, right?
That's right.
We're all flawed. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So even when I was a cop 12 years, and so even as a police officers can make errors, or people don't realize that people can just lie on you. Literally, they could lie, and then you're hemmed up. So the question I have is, I know the Republican Party's agenda on punishment and I'm cool with that. For real, I'm a citizen here, and if somebody breaks a law here and it's proven, they should be punished. I believe that. At the same time, I see how the ripple effects of some crimes that don't necessarily have a victim will affect the family, the community, and the family. So as an example, a driving offense is just an example.
Yeah.
Somebody's driving without a license, and a lot of times that's sort of a socioeconomic crime in my opinion, in that they've got a fine or something, they can't pay it, they still need to be able to work, they're trying to get the money to maybe, and then it's this cycle where then they get picked up, right? Well, if they get arrested on that or penalized, their children feel it, their family feels it. I say all that to say this. Here's the question. So when you're in these positions where you're looking at legislation, And even if it might be against the Republican Party narrative, I just want to make sure the person that's in that position representing me has the backbone to vote the right thing and not necessarily the Republican. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
So you feel like you can stand against, even if you had to stand against the party, that you can analyze things on your own and not just blanketly vote what the party wants you to vote.
Yes, absolutely. And here's the thing. I mean, and what you just described is not a simple problem. It's a complex problem. And so complex problems, you do something here, and it causes an unintended consequence here. Mm-hmm. And so absolutely, my goal, and what I tell people is, I go to Nashville, I'm going to be my own man. And what I mean by that is other than the voters, I'm not beholden to anyone. Mm-hmm. I am a Republican, just like you. I'm a Republican, conservative, both socially and financially. Mm-hmm. But above that, Jerry, as I look at things, really a couple of criteria. Does it violate God's word? That's the first thing. If it does, then I'm out, so to speak. U.S. Constitution, state constitution, and then beyond that, you have to look at, like you say, the impact. And I am smart enough to know I don't know everything.
Sure.
But I'm also smart enough to reach out to people, whether that's law enforcement, whether that's folks in the economic world, community service, things like that, to talk about those impacts. Because once you become justice involved, I think is the kind of the phrase.
Yeah.
Especially with your driver's license, you may never get them back. Yeah, as much as you want them back, you may never get, because of just that cycle and deadlines and fines and just things that. And so, yeah, absolutely. Being able to analyze something and just, because I also like to think that I do have a lot of flaws, but I like to think I've got a lot of common sense too.
Yeah.
And things that just make common sense. If otherwise, they make common sense. And there's no huge fiscal note. They're not socially. Why not?
Sure.
Why not? And because here's the other thing, and this may not be the popular answer, but for me, it's I like to show people grace. And if we can do that, if we can help people, if we cannot, not everything, it doesn't have to be quote unquote a kill shot. It doesn't have to. Why not work with people? Why not pass common sense laws, common sense regulation that enable people to better themselves rather than hamstring them and burden them down with consequences? Like you say, there may not be anybody else involved. It may be just the individual, and we hamstring them for life.
Yeah.
They'll never recover. To me, that doesn't. And so when we do that, they just continue in a lot of cases to be a burden, if you want to look at it that way, on the state, on the county, on the city, on society. So why not enable those folks to help themselves, the ones that truly want to do that? I just think that's the common sense and the right thing to do.
Yeah, well, and again, I'm not saying you're right. It's very complex. All these issues are, like domestic violence laws, DUI laws, all those things I think are a little more complicated than people think. And what I experienced the side where somebody in society who at first was like, put them under the jail, all of a sudden are accused. Yeah. And then they're like, wait. Yeah. Then, now you're walking a day in those shoes. And so I get that sort of a biased one side's perspective. And so again, I'm not saying I would expect you to vote against legislation for punishment. I just want to make sure whoever's there is actually looking at it. And it's not, because look, I've said this, I recently was around a gathering of Republicans, and the frustrating part, and this is why I'll never be in office, is because I am not going to just vote something because it's against a party line. I want it to be, and I like the guidance on. Personally, I'm torn on how to say what I was about to say. I started reading the Bible cover to cover over a year ago because Austin, So I'm a granddaddy now, right?
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, it's definitely changed me because I've always claimed, kind of like a Republican, that I was.
I bet it's changed him too.
It has. I've always claimed I was a Christian, but I'd never read the Bible cover to cover. I'm actually a member of First Baptist. Not an active one, but I'm a member, right?
Amen.
And there's reasons for that too. We can talk about that later. But anyway, I started reading the Bible cover to cover, and it has had a positive influence on me. I'm trying to be more gracious, show more grace myself. And I think the biggest thing for me personally is each morning I try to live in gratitude. For a long time, I was taking for granted that the gifts that God had given me that I'd asked for, and then people complain about them. Mm-hmm. And now I try to, literally the first thing I do every morning is I get some coffee, I let my dogs out, I sit on the steps, and I think about what am I grateful for today, right? Literally living in the blessings that God has given me. At the same time, I'm not going to let, I think you've got, those values guide you, but sometimes the government is separate. You know what I mean? Yeah. So what I was getting at is I respect someone that is guided by the sort of the moral code of the Bible, but at the same time, sometimes you got to step back and look at the constitutional effects. You know what I mean?
Right.
So my point in saying all that was, I'm glad to hear that you would, be your own man if needed.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, well, I could spend a lot of time talking about that. But absolutely, I will be. Like I said.
Well, I like that you said you come from a point of grace.
Yes.
I think that most people focus on I shouldn't say most people. Some people focus on when they start from a Christian perspective. Even though they won't say it, I think they view it as I'm better than this person. You know what I mean? And I don't get that vibe from you at all. Yeah. And I didn't from Brett either. Yeah. But my point is, I think that it's an important difference in that what would Jesus do?
Right.
Jesus wouldn't have jumped to judgment. Jesus would have done exactly what you're talking about. He would have tried to give some grace. And, ye among you without sin cast the first stone. It's none of us.
That's
except
right.
him.
Yeah, that's right.
So, I respect that. So it sort of pivot a little bit because I'd like to get a little more on your background. Yeah. Because my son seemed impressed by it, and all I know about military, Jim was my father-in-law for a little while.
That's right.
And so I knew from him sort of Navy stuff, and then now my son. So you were Army National Guard.
That's correct.
And is that? Correct me. Is that the same as Army? Is the National Guard? Is that
without going
the weekend and then a couple weeks a year? Or?
That's traditionally that's the way people view that. I can tell you when I enlisted in 1989, and I was 26 years old, college graduate, had a career with USDA, loved my country, loved history, looking for a place to serve. But I was, and I don't mind admitting, I was a homebody. I was a homeboy. This is home. It's always been home.
Sure.
So I didn't want to, for 20 or 30 years, pack up and move away from home.
Sure.
And so Army National Guard was an ideal way, best of both worlds, so to speak. And in the late 80s, early 90s, that's the way the Army National Guard was. It was a strategic reserve force. Mm-hmm. Fast forward, 9/11 happens. Now the Army National Guard is not a strategic reserve.
They're the ones called first, right?
It's an operational reserve. And so I tell people I was in the Army National Guard, but I've been on and off of active duty, deployments to combat zones. And so 32 years, that's what I did.
And so when you left, what was your rank with the Army?
I was
National
a colonel.
Guard?
I was a colonel.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I said, incredibly blessed. Mm-hmm. I won't bore you, but I mean, I've done a lot of different things. I enlisted as an infantryman, commissioned as an infantry officer. The core of my career, bulk of my career, was in field artillery. Commanded an artillery battery. Then worked at the next higher levels from battalion to brigade. Then I commanded an artillery battalion. Spent some time as the head logistician for the state. Was a resident student at the Army War College, and finished my career in Smyrna, commanding the 117th Regiment. And so incredibly blessed career.
Yeah, but look, man, I'm going to give you some feedback here, because this is the first time we've ever got to really talk. That's all very impressive, but you don't toot your own horn much. And I think, no, but listen to me. I'm going to give you some, because I know how to market, right? I don't know if you've seen in the area.
Yeah.
I will toot my horn.
Yeah.
And here's why. If you don't, people don't know.
That's right.
And so you're running for something that's pretty decent size here that's going to directly affect me as a voter.
Sure.
And I need to know these things.
Yeah.
And so I think you think it's bragging, but you got to be willing to let people get to know. You're very well spoken. I can tell you're a good person. But I'm just telling you, I hadn't heard a whole lot of those things.
Yeah.
You just got to let people know you.
And thank you. And I readily admit
Well, you said you're a homebody, which I like that you want to be here. Because I want to know you're going to make decisions that are going to positively affect this area. Because I'm not going anywhere.
No, this is it. But I'm just self-promotion. It is just not my strong suit. It's not. But I have, Jerry. I've been incredibly blessed. I've served in critical assignments, combat zone. I could give you a list of awards. Okay. Yeah. They wouldn't mean anything to a lot of people.
I respect, though, that you're not trying to lean on that as why people should vote for you. But here's the other thing, too, this is just me. And I could be wrong, man. I lost my alderman election, so maybe I'm the wrong guy. But I think, if you are the best person for the job, you need to do whatever is necessary, whatever accolades God has put in front of you to help people make an educated decision on where to go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. And
I get why you're not leaning on all of that, but I think it would help.
Yeah. And so behind all of that, really what I think, obviously retiring as an 06 as a colonel says something about leadership.
Sure.
But behind all of that is just the education, the problem solving, dealing with complex issues, leading staffs, talking in front. Even though I am an introvert that functions in an extroverted world.
Sure, I understand.
Okay,
and I get that vibe. And that's not a bad thing.
Yeah,
that probably means you're a good listener.
Here again, yes, I am. Okay, if you look at my Clifton strengths, that's what they are. Okay, and so you can't spend 32 years doing that without being comfortable with processes, with doing the reading, doing your due diligence, trying to gain understanding of what's in front of you. And so that's really part of what I think my strength is going into this position, is I like that. I like to dig into things and find out what's behind it, what the process is, what the issues are, gather the information, and then make a decision. Because sometimes knee-jerk reactions are okay, but a lot of times knee-jerk reactions aren't the best reaction.
Yeah, no, and I think in the position in legislature, you should, I assume, have time to review some of that. It's more forest instead of the trees type operation.
Yes.
So I think that those skills would be beneficial to you. Let me ask you a question that I had asked on the last podcast about your campaigning.
Yeah.
Okay. And I brought this up the last one. I sort of prefaced it by saying when I ran for alderman, I had a whole plan for the Depot district.
Yeah.
And the mayor knew about it. Actually, he wasn't mayor yet, but we talked about it. I wanted it to be a TIF district.
Yes.
And sort of like they did in Millington, right? Anyway, so I go around to people, and most people only wanted to know like who my family was and if I was a Republican or a Democrat. They didn't care about the plan, and it was not a partisan election. It's just a local city election. What difference does it make? But most people don't know that.
Right.
So I'm just curious at the state rep level when you're running, if you've been talking to voters, what seems to be the issues that the voters are interested in?
Yeah, big issues are education, because that's a hot topic right now. Things that bleed down from the national level, immigration, illegal immigration, women in or men in women's sports, okay, and then roads.
That's a big one, and I suppose the state money can have a direct effect on that. Yeah.
Oh, the state money has a huge effect on it. Yeah. I mean, even at the municipal level, the city of Covington gets money from the state for road maintenance, for paving, and I mean, people encounter that every day.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So those are the topics that people care about. Education maybe at the forefront for a lot of people, especially people who have school-aged children.
So what state money? I just don't know.
Yeah.
What is there state money? I assume that comes locally for our county.
In what sense?
Well, like I'm just curious what power the state rep would have in any if any legislation on benefiting money for education or curriculum or any of that.
Right, and the biggest part is just being an advocate and making sure that any legislation impacting education reflects the values and desires of the local people. Beyond that, each student generates a base amount that the state contributes to education. So there's not an awful lot of influence on that, but where the legislature has influence is when school districts or county government or municipal government have a special need, and being able to make that connection, so to speak, between municipal government or county government and the state agency that might be able to help that, might be able to provide the assistance that they need. And that's what we rely on quite often for Senator Rose or for Rep. Moody. We have a need. We kind of know what agency we might need to talk to, but we rely on them to make that connection, because a phone call from somebody in the state legislature typically gets a pretty rapid response, pretty timely response.
Sure. So sort of along those lines, I guess, on like, well, actually it's more circling back to what I asked in the beginning about the Republican Party. And again, just to be transparent, I voted for Trump. I like him.
Yeah.
I like that he's sort of a bully. I would rather be respected personally.
Yeah.
I don't agree with everything he does.
That's right.
I wish he would stay off Twitter.
Yeah.
But I get, if you read The Art of the Deal and take away all the extra stuff, you'll see that that's exactly what he's doing. He's doing exactly what he says to do in The Art of the Deal.
Yeah.
So my question is this, because again, although I support President Trump, I don't support everything he says and does, not blindly,
Right.
you know?
Right.
And so as far as President Trump policies, are you, I assume you support the vast majority of them as Republican.
I did.
But is there any differentiation there, or what's sort of your position on Trump?
You know, that my position has always been, I like President Trump. I like his agenda. I like that we are respected on the world stage again. My mind as a nation, we don't want to be negotiating from a position of weakness. We always want to negotiate from a position of strength. And I think he is a master at doing that. You know, there's this thing called the escalation ladder when you're dealing with an adversary. You escalate, the adversary escalates another step. President Trump, he doesn't go to the next step.
No.
He wants to go to the top of the ladder.
Yeah.
You know, and when you do that, you're in the position of strength.
Yeah.
And so I love that he does that.
Yeah.
My nature, I'm not a, how do I put it? I'm not a trash talker, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I get that.
And
cool.
so some of that, you know, I'm like, just leave it. Why? Why?
So the Art of the Deal, he literally uses the name calling in there.
Yeah.
He always asks for the moon when that wasn't the goal. So he overshoots the ask, and then people wig out, he's going to attack Greenland. He's never going to attack Greenland. He was hinting at all that because he wanted, I think, more space there, wanted some mineral rights.
Right.
You know,
that's right.
He knew what his end result was, and he asked the big ask, and he's got the power to do it. You know, what are you going to do? And so I agree that some of the ways he says and does things are, what would be the word? I could see people not particularly liking it, and it can be maybe disrespectful, abrasive. That's the word I was looking for. But the end result is, as long as America is the strongest and most powerful nation, because I've traveled. There's a lot of people run their mouth about the United States that haven't been anywhere, and then some of them, you give them the opportunity to leave, and they don't want to go nowhere. All of a sudden, but it's so terrible, but I don't want to leave. You know. Anyway,
look, I've been places, seen things. Look, on our worst day, we're better than 99% of the world.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think we are still the greatest nation in the world.
Absolutely.
And anyway, you got extremes in both parties,
Yeah.
and that's kind of what I'm hitting at. You know, I'm more of an old school, like a Southern Dixiecrat type, you know, thinking, which is really what I think most modern moderates are.
I am. Anybody that knows me will tell you, I am as middle of the road. I mean, I know which side I'm on. I'm right of center for sure.
Sure.
But you and I, if we can't find some common ground, we won't ever resolve an issue. The minute you and I quit talking, we've lost the ability to resolve our issues. And so I just think that's where I'm at. Common sense, middle of the road. I'm firm and fixed in my beliefs, but still, I'm able to talk. You and I can disagree, Jerry, and we don't have to be disagreeable.
Yeah, I agree completely.
Yeah.
And of course, as a lawyer, I do that daily. Some of my
Yeah.
best friends are prosecutors.
Yeah.
But speaking of that, you know, we're in a county that's right here by what's going to be a Democratic. Well, I know they took that back. They've redistricted it, didn't
Yeah,
they?
yeah.
That's straight up gerrymandering. But anyway, it's legal. It was very legal.
Yeah.
But you still got some Democrats that are going to be in your jurisdiction here.
Yeah.
And so are you open to discussing, talking with them, hearing them out, the whole deal, and people that are on the other side of the aisle?
Of course, because if I'm elected, when I'm elected, let me say it, when I'm elected,
Yeah.
I represent District 81,
Mm-hmm.
not just the people in District 81 that voted for me.
Yeah.
So what would it say about me if I went to Nashville and you called with a problem, and my first question is, well, are you a Republican or a Democrat? Did you vote for me or you didn't? That's not what you're sending me up there for. That's
Yeah.
not what they want. Representation. They want somebody that they can call and talk to. Look, working in City Hall, you know, I deal with, I won't say all day, every day, but quite often, people's issues. Okay, when they come through the door, I don't have a checklist to check to make sure you meet all the criteria so I can help you with your issues. If you're a citizen, I'm going to try to help you. Same way in Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'll be there representing everybody in the district. Okay. Now, would I love for everybody to vote for me? Sure, but that's not the world we live in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But the world we live in is whoever wins this race has to represent everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Now, does that mean that I have to agree with everything ideologically with you?
Mm-hmm.
No, it doesn't. But it does mean that I have to represent you. If you have a need as a constituent, I have to do my best as your representative to make sure that you get the services that the state provides that you're entitled to. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Good. Well, I respect that. That's what I would hope would be your answer.
Yeah.
And I get the vibe you're serious about it. So I got a couple of questions, but before we get too deep into it, tell everybody the dates. When is the voting and early voting and where?
Yeah, early voting starts this Friday.
Mm-hmm.
17th runs through August the 1st. It's Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. Saturdays, 9 to 2, I believe it is. Don't have it right in front of me, but I'm pretty sure it's 9 to 2. Either at the Election Commission office or First Baptist Church of Toka.
And so the early voting, is that the primary, or is there still a date that's
August 6th.
August 6th
election day.
is election
Yeah,
day,
yeah.
and so that's the primary
The
date
Yeah,
for the state.
yeah.
Okay.
Vote. Early voting is great. You vote on your schedule. It's convenient.
It's way better than voting on election day, in my opinion.
It is.
I always early vote.
Because you never know what's going to happen on August 6th.
Yeah.
And you've got so many other days when it's convenient for you. Walk in. And, I would say, please vote.
Mm-hmm.
One way or the other. Please vote. Because voters have become so apathetic and the turnout is so low. And it goes back to that thing that you said about traveling and seeing other parts of the world. Look, I was in Afghanistan when they held their first free election.
No,
after.
but that was an experience.
It was.
Yeah.
And people risk, not figuratively, literally, people risk their lives to go and vote, something that we take for granted, that you're not going to be in physical danger going to vote.
Yeah.
Okay. We do it freely, and people just don't take advantage because they don't appreciate it.
Yeah, and there's so many things we take for granted
Absolutely.
as Americans.
Absolutely.
But even the fact that someone like you that served all those years, and my son who's actively right now serving, the military people are protecting our right to go and vote.
That's right.
I mean, literally right now, we're being protected by the world's greatest military, and one of those rights people don't even exercise. And then the worst part is that you guys complain.
That's right.
And you didn't vote.
And you didn't vote.
How can you complain when you literally took your ability to make any difference in that out? I don't understand.
And you've lived here long, excuse me, you lived here long enough to people say, well, my vote doesn't matter. Yes, it does. We have had tied elections here before.
Recently. The clerks runoff, both of them were my friends running for the Republican Party.
Yeah.
I think it was like 10 votes
10
or
votes.
something crazy.
10 votes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So every vote counts.
Yeah.
Every vote counts. Yeah.
You're right. Yeah, so I hope people will get out and do it. Another question I have for you, and it's because, and this is a weird basis for it, but when I come into the mayor's office, your office is right around the corner,
Yeah.
and you're usually standing.
That's right.
Which is usually a sign of somebody that probably works out. Do you still work out or do any working out?
A little bit. I've been standing for a long time. At USDA, I always stood. I just feel like I get more accomplished standing up, and so it's just a habit.
Yeah.
But I do. I guess workout is kind of a generic term. I'm not lifting weights, that kind of thing. I love walking. Used to run an awful lot, but my knees anymore bother me. So I walk. And but I tell people I don't go out for a stroll. I go for a walk. So
Gotcha.
I walk intentionally on purpose.
Walking's a workout too.
Yeah.
On the just sidebar on the knees though. Do you mind me asking how old you are?
62.
You're 62.
62.
Man, you look great.
Well, thank you. That's
Yeah, really. I thought
standing up.
I thought maybe that's what I got to start doing. Then that's the key. You got to stand up. No, I thought you were close to. I think you're more. I'm 47.
Yeah,
So I thought you
no.
were going to be in your early 50s, maybe.
No, 62.
62.
Yeah.
Yeah, you look good.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I don't know if I'll give you the advice I was going to say then, because I don't know if it counts when you're 62.
Oh,
But I was having some knee pain because I do competitive powerlifting and
Yeah.
I do martial arts my whole life, right?
Yeah,
So you would
yeah.
think my knees are blown out. Well, a few years ago, my knees were hurting really bad. And I was like, that's it. I'm old. I can't do it anymore. And I started doing this, the way I switched my workouts to specifically build strength in the joint.
Okay.
And shockingly, by doing this sort of adjustment in how I work out, my knees don't hurt at all. I just set a PR. I squatted 510 pounds.
Wow.
Which is a lot for young people. So, I mean, and there's no way I could do that if my knees were bad.
Right.
So my point is, I think some people don't, and it's not anything that's taught. But anyway, we can talk about it later. But there's a way to rehab the joint. People focus on the muscle strength. You've got to work on ligament and tendon strength. And anyways, there's a way to train that, and I think it's really helped me. So I tell everybody that mentions knee problems that there may be a way out. So,
Yeah.
And I run twice a week, but you wouldn't even call it running. You're probably walking faster than I am because I'm 240 and my run is slow.
Yeah. I can, if I'm really in the zone, I can walk 13-minute mile.
Yeah, so I think I maybe, if I'm running like full speed for me, it's like a 12-minute mile.
Okay.
Because I'm slow. What were you running? What was your speeds back when you were running?
In basic training, I was 26 even then.
Yeah.
7-8 minutes.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
My best run ever, I was 27 and I did a 7:42 mile. And I've always been more muscular and bigger, so
Yeah.
the running's just not I had to learn to fight because I can't run.
Right. Yeah. There you go.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, well, anything else, Jason, that you'd like the voters to know about you as they consider this election coming up?
Really just the things we talked about. That, look, this is not a lifelong goal. This is not something I have aspired to. This is just something that seems to be coming naturally from those around me that see me, that know me, know where I'm at in life. Because the reality is, state legislative job is a break-even job at best.
If that. Yeah.
If that. So you have to be at a certain place in life. I'm not boasting. I'm not bragging. I'm just blessed to be there because I've had 2 great careers. So it's not something I'm not going to be for that title, state legislature. I'm just going up there to be a representative for the people, and that's it. That's what I'm going for. I'll be your representative. I'll be everybody in 81. I'll be everybody's representative, no matter if you voted for me or not. If I'm there, I'm your representative. You'll be able to contact me. I believe in transparency and accountability because I want to be held accountable. I want to know that I'm meeting the needs of the people that sent me up there. And so I would say that's why you should vote for me, because I want to be your representative. I want to give back to you what I've been blessed with, the way you poured into me. I want to give some of that back. I want to continue to give that back. And so, yeah, please, July 17th to August the 1st, you can get out and early vote.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'll get Perry Mason too when he wakes up. I'm sorry
he is.
I'm sorry we've had the zoned out snoring the whole time.
He is all about it.
Usually
down there
he
now.
sits here and just watches, and today he decided to pass out and snore the whole time.
Yeah.
But you handled it well, despite the distractions. You did a good job.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming on. I know this
Yeah.
is not always the easiest thing to decide to do when people are looking at you.
No.
Especially if you're introverted. And then also, again, thank you for the sort of mentorship with my son.
Yeah.
You know, he's my oldest. Alex
Yeah,
is.
Alex, yes.
And he just re-upped. Matter of fact, he's in now till at least 30, and he's moving. He's going to. They're moving him from San Diego to Virginia.
Yeah.
He's going to Virginia.
Yeah. And you know the great thing, and I tell people this, regardless of how, and I hope he makes it as far as he wants to go. You know, whatever rank that is. But regardless of that, he should be proud knowing that he is part. You know, we talk about the 99% and the 1%. He's part of that 1% of people in this country who are willing to raise their right hand and put their life on the line. It just doesn't. It's like running for office. Nobody wants to do it. It's you put yourself out there, take that risk, expose yourself, make yourself vulnerable to serve other people, and that's what he's doing. He's part of that 1%, and that's something that he should. Nobody should ever tell him any different.
Yeah, I tried to explain. You know, he's been to several countries now too. He's part of the Navy.
Yeah.
Across the equator a couple times, like a whole deal.
Shellback? Is
Yeah.
that what,
What do they call it? They do a whole thing when they do
yeah,
it.
yeah.
So anyway, but I was he was getting a little down a few months back because he was like, he saw friends of his getting married and kind of moving, and he feels like he's unsettled. And I was like, but you're more advanced in other ways than they are.
Absolutely.
He's had life experiences they haven't. Setting up a
never have.
retirement. Yeah. Like, so I'm very pro him.
Yeah.
All my kids doing whatever they want to do, but yeah, no, I'm very proud of him. And I talked to him the other night about you specifically, and he was had much high praise for you.
Thank you. Yeah.
And that means a lot to me if my son likes you. They're kind of like me. They're pretty good judge of characters, I think, pretty quick. So, but anyway, I appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely.
And hopefully everybody will go out and, you know, they can compare and contrast and decide what's best for them. And kind of like you said, regardless of who you're going to vote for, just go vote.
Go vote.
Yeah, you can't complain if you're not at least voicing your opinion.
That's
so
right.
I thank everybody for watching. If you haven't, please like, follow, subscribe to the content. We're on all social media platforms, all podcast platforms. We're trying to get the Instagram numbers up. You get to go over there and check us out on Instagram. If you haven't noticed on all my stuff, I don't mind bragging about myself. So feel free to go check all that out. And then speaking of bragging, Michelle Allen's been a longtime supporter of our show. I like her. We need to get her back on and talk to her some too. Michelle Allen's your go-to in the area if you're going to buy, sell, rent, lease real estate. She's local with Cry Like Realtor. We like her. And then 1993, I started Mason's High Octane Martial Arts in Covington. We train champions, masters, MMA fighters, whatever. Just come check us out. We're located beside Total Fitness right now, still in Covington, Tennessee. Jam Books and Records on Square. We've got books, records, signed memorabilia, and comic books. Lots of cool stuff and bookish gifts. You can check us out Monday through Saturday here in Covington. And Holistic Healthcare and Hormones is run by Dr. Laura Huffman and my wife, Madeline. And they'll help you get on the roadway to maximizing your health. Just visit holistichealthhormones.com. And then if you need help with social media marketing, branding, website design, etc., visit masonitemarketing.com. Glad to get you helped out. Thanks again for watching. Hope you guys have a good rest of your week. And don't forget, go vote and keep kicking. Thanks for watching, guys. Just remember that this is not legal advice or investment advice or business advice. This is for fun and entertainment purposes only.